Snaking its way through the countryside of Southern Virginia, this beautiful 3.2-mile strip of asphalt has been around since 1957. But now, for the second time in 3 years, the Virginia International Raceway is home to the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. The news is it's not raining at Virginia International Raceway on the final day of the 59th edition of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs, our broadcast presented by our friends at Mazda. Good morning, I'm John Phippen. Alongside me is Tom O'Gorman, and we're going to bring you the call of Super Touring Lite. Tomo, this is a relatively recent class, since what, 2012, and looking forward to this one.
Yeah, happy 10-year anniversary to STL. It's contending its 10th national championship, and this is a really cool class, a very much more modern thought process for building a class where it's very much more power to weight. 2-liter engines and below, you can make swaps, you can kind of do whatever you want with the suspension and the aero package choices you make instead of that very specific spec line that we see in other classes. And it's made this really cool class where we have a pretty decent diversity and a couple different thought processes on how do you want to build your race car.
We've got a couple Titans starting on the front row of this class, but we'll get to the introductions a little later. Let's talk about this track. 3.27 miles, 15 laps or 40 minutes. Take us around, Tomo.
Yeah, where it's a couple different sections here where different cars will be strong in certain places, but starting off with the twistiest sector 1, deep braking zone down into turn 1, a great passing opportunity, and then you're going to need a lot of mechanical grip and balance through turns 3, 4, 5, and 6 at those lower S's, 4, 5, and 6. Then into the very high speed, we're going to need a very different kind of balance for 7, 8, and 9. Very close to flat, if not flat, in most of these cars. Before we get to South Bend, very fast through turn 10 before the Oak Tree corner down at 11 and 12. Getting a drive off of 12 down the back straightaway is going to be very important as that long straight undulates up and down through the hills of Virginia into the roller coaster. Deep braking zone, another kind of tricky passing opportunity at turn 14 before falling down the hill at roller coaster into Hog Pen at 16 and 17.
Yeah, the hog pen turn down there at turn 17 has been the site of a lot of incidents. All you have to do is drop a wheel off and you're going to go for a long ride. The third member of our broadcast team is down on the grid, and that's Hayward Wagner. Good morning, Hayward.
Morning, gentlemen. Finally, we get to have a pre-race conversation about the good old classic topics of cars and tires. It is clear course, still a bit foggy, but we have really good weather. On pole, Danny Steyn driving the MX-5. That car has a 2-liter motor in it. It weighs in at about 2,700 pounds. Right beside him, Joe Moser. He's got a 1.8-liter. Because the class makes the weights balance against the displacement, he's running at 2,300. And then Greg Maloy here in the other CRX, he's running a 1.6-liter, so he can weigh 2,100. So you've got about a 600-pound variance across these three cars. As important, Steyn and Moser are both on the Hoosier A compounds all the way around. That's a pure pace setup. They want to go as fast as they can right out of the box. Moser told me that his car will be warm and ready to go by the time he gets to turn 1. Maloy, however, is running R's on the front of the car. He's running the harder compound on the front. He's playing the long game. He wants to see if we can get to the last couple laps of the race. Maybe these two guys up front drove their tires off. He still has a little bit in the tank. The other car to keep an eye on, there's an Integra in fourth, the 17 car. That's the same weight as Moser's car with almost 1.5 foot more wheelbase. So if there is a limit on grip, that car is going to be a lot easier to drive than this super short wheelbase CRX.
Great insight, Hayward. Looking forward to this one as we got a real mix of cars at the front. But we talked about the two Titans on the front row. Denny Steyn, a 3-time and defending champion of the class, and Joe Moser, a 3-time and defending STU champion, who's also won this class as well. Those two guys certainly have to be everybody's pick to be duking it out for the win.
Yeah, it's a good bet that one of those two will bring home a gold medal today. But it depends when you talk to each one. The other one says, "Man, he's got it. It's going to be tough to beat him." So that tells you where these guys are operating at. It's pretty fun to watch. Interesting that Greg Maloy, who qualified there in third, is choosing to run the harder compound tire. His car has the smaller engine. It's going to be the slowest on the straights, the fastest in the corners theoretically. And if he's playing that long game, it may be the last 2 laps that car is really good. Also keep an eye out for Trevor Degioanni, who starts there in fourth, a very long time club racer in more the IT style ranks. This car came out of the IT ranks just to come here in STL. which is really what this class was built for. But he says, hey, I always race better than I qualified. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, and he's the highest placed rookie, making his first runoffs appearance. Let's introduce the 24 starters for you. Starting back in row number 12, car 18 is Dan Harding out of the Ohio region in a Miata. The rookie number 82 of Steve Wickersham out of Mooresville, North Carolina, the Washington, D.C. region, in another Miata starts next to him. In row 11, car 21, Marshall Stalker out of Hanover, Mass. in the New England region in a Miata. And another rookie, the 142 of Peter Davis out of Dallas and the Texas region in an Acura Integra. In row 10, car 182 is Theodore Cahal out of Christiansburg, Virginia in the DC region in a Miata. Next to him is the 42 of Brian Hooper out of Greensboro, North Carolina, the North Carolina region in another Acura Integra. In row 9, car 68 is Hugh McAfee out of Boca Raton, Florida, but he races out of the New England region in his MX-5. Then the 28 of Michael Sperber out of Asheboro, North Carolina, and the North Carolina region in a Ford Focus ZX3. In row 8, the 2019 Spec Miata National Champ, Todd Burris, car 11 out of Melbourne, Florida, in the Central Florida region in his Miata. Next to him is the 48 of John Sewell out of Tallahassee, Florida, in the Florida region in an Acura Integra Type R. In row 7, Jose Oriz Pena out of Miami, Florida, from the Puerto Rico region in a Honda CRX, and the 57 of Chuck Hines out of Cameron, North Carolina, in the North Carolina region in a Mazda MX-5. Car number 40 is David Paffinier out of Miami, Florida, in the Chicago region. Forgive me, David, if I butchered your last name. He's in a Mazda. Next to him, the 39 of Mike Taylor out of Cumming, Georgia, in the Atlanta region. He is in an Acura Integra. Car 44, Gonzalo Aponte out of St. Cloud, Florida, also from the Puerto Rico region in a Civic. And the 37 of Amy Mills from Bellevue, Washington, in the Northwest region in a Mazda Miata. Derek Ketchie starts in row 4 in the 15 out of Charlotte, North Carolina, the Central Carolinas region in a Honda SI, and the 49 of Alan Cross out of Atlanta, Georgia, in the Atlanta region in a Miata. Another rookie in the field starts outside of row 3, the 189 of Olivier Jean Francois out of Miami and the Puerto Rico region in the only Toyota 86 in the field. Next to him, the 22 of Max G out of Belleville, Ohio, and the Ohio region. He is the 2017 STU National Champion in his Honda Prelude. We've already talked about Trevor Degioanni out of Cumming, Georgia, in the Atlanta region in the number 17 car in his Integra. Greg Maloy starts third in the number 38 out of Oak Park, Michigan, in Detroit in his CRX. Joe Moser will start outside of row 1 in the number 36 out of Dallas, but he races out of the Detroit region, a 3-time and defending STU champion in his Honda CRX. And the pole sitter, car number 9, Denny Steyn out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in the Florida region. Danny in a Mazda MX-5. This is his 15th runoff start.
Well, it may be dry, but check out the track conditions. After a significant oil spill yesterday at the very, very end, there was not much they could do other than put the oil dry down and let it sit overnight. So the oak tree conditions are going to still be a bit of a mystery coming to the green flag.
Yeah, we had that yesterday, late in the day, as the rain poured down there on the southern tip of this racetrack, and oak tree was wet and the rest of the track was dry. So that made for some interesting racing at the end of the day yesterday. So that dampness has carried over in the overnight dew. We just got word that the number 11 of Todd Burris, the VIR Spec Miata champion in 2019, and the 15 of Derek Ketchie did not make the start. So those are 2 cars that will be missing from the order. So 22 of them following the Mazda pace car as they come down the hill from the roller coaster and make their way toward Hog Pen. Again, the site of quite a few. There's a damp spot in the track right about there that some drainage has created issues for some drivers throughout the course of the weekend. But front row of Denny Steyn and Joe Moser now have the field under their control. They'll have to wait till they get to that acceleration cone. You can see it on the pit wall, that lime green cone. They cannot accelerate until they see that. That's about the place with this bendy front straightaway that they can see the green flag. And there it is as they are accelerating away. Danny Steyn with just a nose ahead, but Joe Moser's car coming up on the cam. We'll see if Joe's got enough to sweep into the front. Danny Steyn is deep on the brakes into turn number 1, and he's going to hang on to it at the moment. No change in the second row. Greg Maloy and Trevor Degioanni still side by side. Joe Moser makes a great run as we got a car going off at the outside. That's the 39 of Mike Taylor.
Happy to see Mike even make the grid after a nightmare of a week, but the ABS on that MX-5 was good for turn 1, but a little contact between some cars, awkward rejoin there for the MD MX-5, and it's a big spin into traffic. Good save for that EK Civic. At the front, though, Moser was able to do a big power move through turn 2 and take the lead.
That was Gonzalo Aponte who had that off-course excursion there between turn 3 and 4, but he was able to rejoin. Joe Moser with the advantage at the moment. Danny Steyn right at his wheel tracks as the front wheel drive CRX and the rear wheel drive MX-5 go on after it. Coming under the bridge as they come into the rising S's, and Danny Steyn has taken over the lead somewhere in the climbing S's.
I have to imagine the stability that kind of using all the wheels involved on that MX-5 is what gave him maybe a big power move up into South Bend, maybe some stability issues on the very first couple of laps with that CRX for Joe Moser. And check it out, Trevor Degioanni up to 3rd.
Exactly right, and he is right on the back of those two, so don't count Trevor out, despite the fact that this is his first runoffs appearance. You can see the dust from the oil dry being kicked up, as that was laid down late in the day yesterday and never really had a chance to get washed off.
And Hayward absolutely nailed it on the grid. Moser pops out for the lead. We're going to see if that pans out down into the roller coaster, but the extra wheelbase on that Integra for Trevor Degioanni seems to be paying off. It looks like a rough start for the Toyota 86 of Jose Osiris. Nope, I'm sorry. That is Jean-Olivier Francois has dropped a couple of positions on the green flag.
Danny Steyn getting a good run down the roller coaster and stretching his advantage. Degioanni all over the back of Joe Moser as he stays right in his draft as they make their way down the front straightaway. Degioanni's going to feint to the inside. Let's see if he's trying to sell him the dummy or if he's going to, yep, that's exactly the case as he goes around the outside forcing Moser. He's going to sacrifice his exit here of turn 1 as they go side by side into the braking zone. Moser goes a little bit wide through the horseshoe, they call it. Degioanni elects to follow him. Greg Maloy not that far back. We got a pretty good four-way battle here at the front, but Danny Steyn getting away here in the early stages.
Danny shared with us that he does have to consider tire wear in these races because that MX-5 is over 2,700 pounds. They're not typically meant to be that heavy, really, at a race weight for 40 minutes or 15 laps. He does have to be a little careful with when he uses that car up. So right now is actually a gift. He can just kind of cruise and kind of set that early. Whoa, Greg Maloy sweeps the outside. Is that a pass for 2 cars in the lower S's?
My goodness gracious, I've never seen that. Holy moly, Greg Maloy came from out of nowhere and passed both those guys, and I think he caught Joe Moser enough by surprise that he sort of lost his momentum.
Well, we got into these lower S's, and Moser is definitely not quick right now. He's kind of holding the field up, and it looks like maybe missed a shift or something. Trevor goes one way, Maloy through the grass the other way, picks up both positions. I think something is mechanically not happy in that Moser mobile.
Maloy, though, at the front of this group. Degioanni stays right with him. There is Joe Moser, now leading about a 5-car train for 4th position. So I'm not quite sure what happened. I think, we said he might have missed a shift. That sort of feels like that could be exactly what happened. But Danny Steyn getting away at the front. Greg Maloy now up into 2nd with Trevor Degioanni right in his wheel tracks. Degioanni with that long wheelbase Acura Integra.
Saw that straight line speed just kind of at the very end of the straightaway coming into effect for Trevor in the Integra. That's a 1.8 liter engine swapped into that car instead of the 1.6 liter in the black CRX. We're taking a look at Greg Maloy there coming through the hog pen. So that's going to be a handling advantage for the lighter car. And then this battle, Moser certainly has some mechanical issues. Looks like he's trying to get to pit lane.
Yeah, exactly right, man. That's a tough. You bet. That's a tough break for the 3-time champion. Something obviously not right with that machine. And into the pit lane he comes. So Joe Moser falling out of the order. That takes Greg Maloy and Trevor Degioanni in the medal positions right now. But at the moment, in the early stages here, nobody has anything for Danny Steyn.
Max Guy doing a good job in his Honda Prelude. That's an STU championship winning car that he's brought down to STL with engine size, essentially sitting there in the 4th position. And then Alan Cross is just in front of this driver, Chuck Hines, in a nice green MX-5, probably a similar build in most capacities to Danny Steyn's.
I had a chance to talk with Max and his dad, Sonny, on Thursday after qualifying. They were pretty happy with it. They've been running an STU, so they've making the step up to STL. And it's been a kind of a new experience, but he qualified well in the 5th spot, so we'll see if he's got anything for those leaders. As rounding out the top 5 is Alan Cross, up from his 7th place starting spot. And the 199 with an issue, that is Jose Pena, one of the 3 drivers out of the Puerto Rico region, and he is pulling off with what appears to be a mechanical. Looks like that was just outside of turn 3. Meanwhile, Danny Steyn all by himself. Last time, 3.5 seconds out in front. Greg Maloy with Trevor Degioanni giving chase. Max G leading that next train of cars in the number 22 car. Alan Cross and Chuck Hines involved in that battle. Right at the tail end of that is Olivier Jean Francois in the 189.
Watch this closing rate for Trevor right at the very end before the braking zone. Right about there is where they're going to be on the brakes. If he can be just a little bit closer coming off of Oak Tree, he'll be in good shape. But that lone Toyota in the field, we're taking a look at Olivier Jean Francois putting pressure on the back of Chuck Hines for the 6th position. Francois qualifying in the 6th position, dropping to about 8th or 9th on that first lap, trying to race his way back up.
I wonder if Francois has had an off, because I noticed on the back straightaway that chin spoiler on that Toyota 86 flapping up and down, so I think it may have come dislodged. That's going to be a little disturbing, I'm sure, if nothing else, and it's not going to help with the aero. We'll see if it does the same thing here on the front straight once it gets up to speed.
Can certainly be distracting. You have that in the back of your head. Is this okay? Is my car falling apart? Am I going to make the end of this race? As we see a little bit of a vibration from the hood also on the Greg Maloy car there, the number 38 sitting in 2nd. Trevor kind of dialing up the pressure in the red Integra behind for Degioanni.
As these two are battling one another, that gives Danny Steyn the opportunity to pull even further away. He's got his lead up over 4 seconds now. As Degioanni a little late on the brakes there, coming into left hook, turn number 4.
The longer wheelbase of that car not going to make it quite as happy in the lower speed corners, right where we just saw. But once he gets down those straights or into the higher speed corners, he's in great shape. Over-under for the ND, that's number 40 of David Palfinier. A newer build, used to race a slightly older MX-5 in this class. Looks to be a pretty racy right now.
Just ahead of him, John Sewell in the 44, excuse me, Gonzalo Almonte in the 44, putting a pass on John Sewell in the Acura.
This whole train is following John Sewell. Cool to see that forward focus in this battle.
Yeah, exactly. Don't see many forward foci in racing any longer.
And it looks quick in a straight line. We'll see if David Palfinier can get a good move at the top of the hill. Looks to the inside. He's not quite close enough, but throws it up there anyway. No overlap, not going to make it happen, as he's just got to be a little careful too with Amy Mills right behind. Amy's looking to the outside for Oak Tree.
Yeah, not quite able to get it done, but she is looking racy as they work their way through the double apex right-hander, which is the Oak Tree bend. So named because right inside of that turn was a big old oak tree for many years. Sadly, it was struck by lightning some years ago, and it was removed. But the name of the turn still remains. Amy getting a good run. She's going to take that spot as Palfinier, is going to lose back to 12th spot, it looks like. Amy Mills able to make it happen.
You can tell that new MX-5 just doesn't have the straight line speed down these long straightaways at VIR, but as soon as they get into the braking zones, he just closes right back up as the proverbial cork in the bottle becomes that Ford Focus of Michael Sperber.
Sperber, the 28, just now coming down the hill. It's Amy Mills up a spot. And she's looking racy here. She's right on the back of him as Amy's MX-5 making up ground. She's down to the inside. Let's see if she can outbrake into turn 1. I think she's got the top end to get it done. Yeah, Amy moves up another spot.
Palfinier's going to try to go with her. Amy actually qualified 9th in that orange, black, and blue NB Miata, so there's some progress being made back from some sort of occurrence we missed off camera, racing for 11th right now.
Exactly, and that MX-5 RF, the fixed hardtop. Coming under lots of pressure. No, there was some contact there.
Michael Sperber getting into the back of David Palfinier. Maybe forgot that his Focus can't stop like an ND Miata, but unfortunately that's going to leave Palfinier stuck in the grass. As soon as that car goes sideways, maybe missed getting the clutch in just in time to keep the car running. As we see both brake lights go on about the same time, the Focus can't get it stopped. Just a quick boot to the back, and he goes around.
Alpha there, we saw the flames coming out of the exhaust. He's trying to get it restarted, and he has gotten it refired. So he will rejoin, but sadly at the back. So John Sewell, Gonzalo Aponte, and Michael Sperber are 8th, 9th, and 10th right at the moment. Amy Mills challenging Sperber, or hoping to challenge Sperber. But anyway, back to the front, Danny Steyn continues to stretch his lead, coming up on 5 seconds here as he is about to complete race lap number 5.
Yeah, stretched his lead by about 7/10 last time through, setting the race best lap time. But it looks like this lap, Greg Maloy is actually quicker in both sectors 1 and 2 as they come. There's Greg in second, has started to pull the gap away from Trevor Degioanni in third. So that black CRX this lap through is on track to become the fastest car. Let's see if timing and scoring updates. Yes, he is the fastest car on track this lap through by 1/10 of a second. We may be starting to see that tire choice come into play as we're closing in on half distance. The quote-unquote autocross compound tire that Danny Steyn has chosen versus that true race compound tire that Greg Maloy chose in the lighter car. That CRX is going to stay alive a lot longer.
As Hayward said on the grid, it's the long game for Greg Maloy, and it looks like that's coming to pass. So we'll see if Danny, plying his trade to build as big a lead as possible, hoping that it's insurmountable as his tires go away. As Maloy now faster than Danny Steyn. Let's see if he's got time to run him down. We're still in the early stages here of this 15-lap event, working race lap number 6. There's a 40-minute time limit in the event that we would have a full course yellow, but in these dry track conditions, we shouldn't have any trouble getting to the end of 15 laps.
The gap last time through 4.5 seconds, so he's going to need a lot more than 1/10 per lap to close that up, but the car is looking fantastic. Super composed in the high-speed sections, nice and flat in the lower speed corners. Greg has done a lot of work to get to this point. One of the drivers that trailers the car and works on it himself, and no big team, no big tent, as some others have. Ooh, Hugh McAfee having an issue.
Hugh out of the New England region. Appears to be a pullover, as we got some side-by-side battles.
Ooh.
I think that was the 22 of Aponte, the 44 of Aponte, excuse me.
It's Chuck Hines and Olivier Jean Francois, who had that awesome battle for 6th raging in the background the entire time, but the MX-5 is a little quicker in a straight line, gathers it up from that off exiting oak tree, and is going to go side by side into roller coaster.
Yeah, you can see that front, that chin spoiler vibrating on the ground as the 57 of Chuck Hines getting that done. Oh, they're so close. Side by side down the roller coaster. You don't see that often as they work their way through turn 16 and into the hog pen turn.
That little lip is becoming detached from the bumper itself, so at some point it looks like that might give up. But the car's still looking strong through the compression there at Hogpen. Gets a pretty decent run. I think the 2-liter in that 86 is just not the most efficient 2-liter. It's not the most powerful 2-liter in the way it makes its power, so he's clearly struggling in the straight lines. And if you do an engine swap, it has to be from the same manufacturer, so Toyota's option's a little bit more limited than than Mazda's. He doesn't care. He's going it down in there at the apex of turn 1.
Exactly right. Not quite able to complete the pass, but let's see if he'll try the inside move here at the NASCAR bend, turn number 3. That spoiler is now flapping pretty much the entire way around the racetrack. Do we have a replay of that incident that took out Francois? But no, he is able to work his way through into the snake, the lower S's. Just the point there is to try to straight line those bends as much as possible. You can come into every driver's favorite part of this racetrack, the climbing S's. Using all of the curb is this battle as they're approaching South Bend. The tricky right-hander, blind, sets up.
Wow, so much speed for Jean-Francois through South Bend up, but it just didn't really have anywhere to go. Chuck Hines placing the car perfectly on line. And unfortunately, now they're going to get onto that back straight where the Toyota seems to be struggling with that straight line speed a bit.
Nose to tail as they work their way down Madison Avenue, the back straightaway here, undulating as you can see. They come to the top of the hill and then back downhill, and then another uphill run as they get to the braking zone for the roller coaster. 130 feet of vertical drop off that turn.
From 130 miles an hour, no less.
Exactly right. The speed trap just before the braking zone for that turn. Right right at the moment. Chuck Hines looking to be pretty comfortable out. Maybe a 3 or 4 car length advantage. And if he can maintain that, he's demonstrated he's got the better straight line speed. He can extend that here on the front straightaway. It's a straightaway in name only. It sort of bends almost continuously to the driver's right as they work their way out of Hog Pen and down into the horseshoe at turn number 1. Haven't talked much about Alan Cross. I was just going to say he's pretty much by himself in 5th spot. He's 4 seconds behind Max G, running in 4th. But a great job for Alan in the Miata out of Atlanta, Georgia.
This car run out of the same tent as Danny Steyn's car, the OPM team from the Atlanta area. So Alan's got a good resource under the tent, and a lot of the drivers, I should say, a lot of cars run very successfully out of that tent with a lot of very good drivers, and Alan is another one of them. He already raced in Spec Miata this weekend, and having a really, really strong run there in 5th, top 5 in STL.
Well, if there was any worry about Danny Steyn running out of tire, it certainly has not shown itself yet, as his lead is up to 6.5 seconds on the last lap. And he is comfortably out in front. As we're entering the second half of this, give us just a moment to take a break to thank some of the partners making this broadcast possible.
Introducing the first ever Mazda CX-50.
Focus, guys. We're in a race to the finish, okay?
Here's where the rubber meets the road.
Have these initiatives moved the needle, like, at all?
Well, let's shift gears a minute.
We're really kind of at the apex here.
We need to put the pedal to the metal. We need to nail those hairpin turns, cross that finish line, and take that checkered flag. Woo!
Hit the track with the world's largest motorsports calendar, track day insurance, and more. Haggerty. Let's drive together.
Why race? Because it's in our blood. A love of driving that pushes us as hard on the road as it does on the track. It's why we reinvented the Roadster and put a piece of it into every car we make. It's why we refine, rethink, and refine again. And it's why we'll always engineer to your heart's BPM, not simply an engine's RPM. Why race? Why indeed?
Welcome back to the 59th edition of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. We're in the middle of an STL battle. As Amy Mills there battling with John Sewell. That's the battle for 8th and 9th. John Sewell in the foreground in that Acura Integra. As the 189 is off, that's Olivier Jean Francois. And that was at apparently he went off at the oak tree.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to get on power a little too early. No, trying to show the nose at the apex, grabs way too much of that curb. That's almost an off-camber feeling apex, and then you hit that inside curb. It really upsets the car and couldn't get the power down and save it.
As you can see the skid marks, he's not the first one to make that mistake at the second apex of oak tree.
Perfect for us. He rejoins the battle we were already talking about as Amy Mills making a charge back towards the front, starting 9th, ended up back out of the top 12 and is trying to get back up there, really on the back of that beautiful Integra of John Sewell. I've had the pleasure of driving that car, and it's spectacular to drive. So much fun in these STL cars. The front is just hooked up and the back's along for the ride, but Mills putting a lot of pressure on just in front of Gonzalo Aponte.
So Francois did not lose a position with that spin because he had built up a pretty big lead over this battle. But now he's going to have these two breathing down his neck as they work their way down the front straightaway. We're working race lap 10, so we'll have 5 to go next time by. These two so evenly matched. Amy just doesn't quite have the straight line speed that John Sewell has, but the two of them closing down on the Toyota on the front straightaway, as we were talking about. The 86, not, you know, the straight line speed of the 86 is not its strong point. Into NASCAR bend, so named because it's left-handed.
And actually the pace of these 3 cars, although Olivier Jean Francois in the 86 had pulled out a very significant lead, the lap times are very, very similar for these 3 drivers. So Jean Francois may not be able to start pulling away very much. Depends on how racy Amy Mills gets with John Sewell.
Max G in the 22 car, slowly reeling in Trevor Degioanni. Max also playing the long game here in his Honda Prelude. And around goes Chuck Hines in the 57. Almost a carbon copy of what happened to Francois just a lap ago.
Does it all by himself this time, and Hines was not shy about flirting with the track limit there. He was going in the mud every other lap or so, and it looks like he kind of got bit that time. Interestingly, though, this car right here on camera, Trevor Degioanni, was a couple of seconds off pace last time through, only turning a 2:11 with a best lap time of a 2:09, and that is what has allowed Max Guy here in the white Prelude to catch up so much. Curious if Trevor maybe had encountered some lap traffic or had a significant mistake in that lap, or if he's going to be able to get back to pace.
Yeah, Max G's last lap a 2:09.8, Trevor Degioanni a 2:11.0, so he is chasing him, catching him at over a second a lap, and with a handful of laps left, he's certainly within shouting distance to find his way up onto the podium, into the bronze medal contention. Again, as we said, Max racing in STU, and he took the championship in 2017. Stepping up to STL this year, and he and his dad feeling pretty good about that car, that they work on themselves. Max, one of the instructors at the Mid-Ohio School at my home track.
Well, with the dueling mistakes, Chuck Hines has found himself right back where he was, battling with Olivier Jean Francois in the Toyota 86. Chuck Hines in the green green MX-5, and John Sewell, a big mistake off the outside of turn 1, is going to go for a ride.
And down the hill he goes. Virtually every place on this racetrack, if you go off track, it's a downhill run into the grass, and it's hard to get back up on track. It punishes mistakes without having barriers right alongside the racetrack. That's one of the reasons it's such a popular place.
Yeah, it really is one of the least forgiving tracks.
Francois and Hines nose to tail now, as those two. Amy Mills closing quickly with John Sewell's spin. She's now back up to 8th position. Alan Cross up in front is about the same pace. It doesn't look like they're catching him at this juncture.
So Jean Francois in the 86 was having a hard time finding a way past Chuck Hines, but now he finds himself in front. We'll see if he can defend that position, as this is where both drivers made their mistake and went for a big slide. Amy Mills navigating that lap traffic as well, and it looks like, oh, big issues for Mike Taylor, engine issues, and that looks like to have expired. That's heartbreaking after just a nightmare week for that car. 2 engines already, 3 transmission swaps. It looks like it's going to end in smoke.
Kerblamo is the word that comes to mind, and he does a great job of pulling off into the south pits there so as not to either oil down the track or bring out a yellow flag. Chuck Hines all over the back of Francois on the 86.
Man, both of these drivers not afraid to race. That was a big wiggle towards the turn-in for the MX-5 of Chuck Hines.
And as these two are battling, Amy Mills getting a little bit closer. She's recovered back to where she qualified. She started 9th, fell back early, and is now back up into that 9th spot.
Hearing from Hayward Wagner on the pit lane that there's not insignificant mist starting on the front straight. We may see some track conditions deteriorate here just a little bit. Maybe that has something to do with the couple of offs we've been seeing, but Chuck Hines, a big lunge on the brakes around the outside for one.
Don't think he's quite close enough, but Francois did have to be a little defensive, so that'll cause his issues with the exit speed. Hines thinks about stuffing it inside, but he's certainly close enough to try that at turn 4, and Hines goes wide. Is he going to keep it off the tires? Yes, he does.
And that was a weird issue in the turn-in for that car. Almost looked like he did encounter some wet conditions, but only for his car. As he's still having some issues with grip in the right rear. As soon as he turned in, the car kind of flat slid. He had to straighten his hands up and he went off the track, luckily keeping it out of the tire barriers, but some ill handling in that MX-5 right now.
Don't know if it was a little target fixation or not.
What has happened here? Danny Steyn all of a sudden finding himself under pressure from Greg Maloy for the lead. Greg Maloy there in the black number 38. He was down 8 seconds, and now it's 8 car lengths.
Danny Steyn obviously with an off somewhere. Either that or those tires have dropped off the cliff in the late stages.
It was in sector 1. He was 4.5 seconds slow just in sector 1 this lap. And I have to wonder, is that mist that Hayward Wagner talking about on pit lanes affecting sector 1? We saw a couple other mistakes from other drivers down there, perhaps catching Danny Steyn out as well.
Yeah, getting off at turn 1 again, another place where we've seen a lot of offs here, especially in damp track conditions. Drivers leaving their braking just a little bit too late, and you go off track here, and as you can see, the track falls away on the outside of the horseshoe bend.
Danny Steyn is limping. There's something wrong in that car, and he's just significantly losing pace.
He lost 6 seconds on that lap as the interval's down at the stripe. It was down to 1.5 seconds, and it's less than that now. So Danny Steyn looked to be imperious out in front, and it is not happening in the closing laps here. Working race lap 13.
Almost sounds like he's in the wrong gear, perhaps missing a gear in the MX-5 for Danny Steyn. If he maybe lost third or something, that he's slow in that first sector, just kind of floundering at this point under significant pressure through the uphill S's, but the car's back to pace here. Just speculating on the transmission issue perhaps, but Danny Steyn, when they did build this car, it had some reliability issues that have really gone away the last couple of years, which we were so happy to see that it could finish races regularly, and some issue has reared its head in this race.
So Danny's going to have to do his best defensive driving here to maintain the chance, but I think it looks almost inevitable as Maloy pulls out. Yeah, Danny's not able to get any acceleration off the turn, so I wonder if he's losing a lower gear. I think you may be right on the nose, because once he gets it up on song, he's back up to pace. Wow. But he has no drive off the corner.
You could just hear it bogging coming off of Oak Tree. It's just fine now, but really, I don't think there's much he can do, especially with someone like Greg Maloy. They were running similar lap times. I mean, you can't do anything once you're out of gear like that, and you see no drive off the corner. Greg Maloy goes to the lead with only a couple laps remaining, 2 to go.
Yeah, that will be a starting lap 14 this time by. So we'll see the white flag in the next lap after that. There's plenty of time left to get all 15 laps in here. You know, like Danny's top end speed is fine. I mean, he stays right with it. In fact, he's gaining on it as he comes into turn 1, but then he's a sitting duck coming off the turns because he just has no way to get the power down.
And there's no way for Greg to know why Danny is slow. There's only for him to know that he's slow. So right now we know that this is the sector where Danny is slow. There, he just doesn't have the gearing to come off the corner, and Greg's going to see that happen and go, yeah, okay. But until that, he was under a lot of pressure.
Danny's car with the top end, if he can find some way to get a run on him on the back straightaway and retake the lead down the roller coaster, he just might be able to hang on to the flag. But he's losing ground here in these lower speed sections, coming up now into the climbing S's where he should be pretty well. I just saw Degioanni in the Acura fishtailing his way out of the lower S's.
The question is if he can run down Steyn as well. He needs to close about 8 seconds, with Danny lapping maybe 2 or 3 seconds off pace, just trying to keep every ounce of momentum he can in the MX-5. But the red Integra is lurking as Amy Mills having an issue.
She's off to the side. Amy had worked her way back up to 9th position. Fell back to 10th last lap, but she is done, it appears. So tough break for Amy.
Oh, and that's only about 50 yards from the pit entry, so barely making it down the hill, but just not quite home.
And she's off far enough on driver's right, should not bring out a full course yellow with only a lap to go here as the leaders come. Here, we're going to get a replay, and she looped it. coming down the hill from the roller coaster into Hogpen, and then wasn't able to get it refired.
Yeah, the car compressing and then just going for that big flat slide, but not able to restart the engine. A lot of these engines, once they're hot and they've been running and running and running, they don't really want to refire once they come to a stop. As Steyn is maintaining pressure on Maloy, but Maloy just needs to stay calm. Sector 1 is where it all falls apart for Danny Steyn. It's heartbreaking to watch this unfold in real time, but he's doing a fantastic job to keep the momentum up as Maloy leads on to what I believe is the white flag lap.
It is indeed. The white flag is in the air. Maloy's best finish so far is a third in his 3 years of runoffs competition, so this would be his first gold medal if he's able to hang on for one more lap here. At the moment, with Danny Steyn's problem, he certainly looks to be in the catbird seat.
It sounds like he's figured out how to get around his transmission issue. That car we heard bogging a couple laps in a row. This time it's on song, and he's definitely on pace. His sector time was actually just about right that time through. So this race isn't entirely over. Danny Steyn, if that car is back to shifting properly, Maloy might have some big pressure. And
they've got some traffic in front of them, which could be a factor, especially if they don't get around that traffic on the back straightaway. And it looks like that's going to be the case, as the lapped car shouldn't be a factor. Yeah, that's the 42 of Brian Hooper.
Ooh, and that car's going to be in the terrible spot for Danny Steyn. Can't get the power down, can't track out. I don't know, it's going to be very close.
It is indeed. If Danny indeed can find a way, get a little push from behind from Hooper. He's closing up. Again, that car's strong on the top end. He's got a little more straight line speed. Can he make a race of it here on the final lap? Greg Maloy just needs to hit his marks, stop driving, or not drive in his mirrors, basically keep his eyes forward, and just do what he can do. But Danny's getting closer. Could it be a late race pass? But Greg Maloy taking advantage of what appeared to be a mechanical problem for Danny Steyn. Maloy looking for his first championship, Steyn looking for his fourth. He's closing, but it's not going to be enough. To the flag, Greg Maloy takes the gold. Big fist out the window. Danny Steyn has to settle for second. Just when it looked like he had this one in the bag, the car lets him down. Trevor Degioanni chased by Max G to the line. Degioanni hangs on for the final medal spot. Max G comes home just a couple seconds behind in fourth, up one from where he qualified. Waiting for Alan Cross to come across the stripe. He will finish in the fifth spot.
Man, Greg Maloy couldn't have happened to a nicer guy to get the win after so much work. That is a self-built, home garage-built car that he worked on himself, all by himself, and has just been plugging away at STL for a couple of years with that 1.6-liter build. Made all the right calls and made a great race come together. Circumstances for his competitors contributed for sure, but man, so proud of Greg. I believe started road racing in 2015, actually bought his first road race car from me. So not this car, but then has just plugged away on this program for a bunch of years and brings home a gold medal right in front of Danny Steyn, who I have to say, valiant effort right there at the end, especially to just keep trying. You know, if the car was stuck in fourth for 2 laps and he just kept trying for making it shift again and got it back there so close at the line.
Yeah, I'll be real curious to hear after he has a chance to talk to Hayward, as our top 3 finishers will make their way down to the pit lane, and Hayward will have a chance to chat with all 3 of them, and we'll get some indication of what Danny's problem might have been. As there's your unofficial results, Greg Maloy taking the win in dramatic fashion. Danny Steyn closing, margin of victory just under 0.2 of a second. Trevor Degioanni in kind of a lonely third spot, coming under pressure from Max G at the close, but he was able to hold on for the bronze medal. Alan Cross in 5th, Olivier Jean Francois coming home in the 6th spot. Chuck Hines, despite a spin or 2, ends up in 7th. Gonzalo Aponte up into 8th spot. John Sewell comes home 9th. And David Palfiner comes home in the 10th spot. 1 lap down, it appears. Nope, he crosses the line almost a lap down. as our leader comes down on the cool down lap and makes it into pit lane. As we said, he'll have a chance to chat with us and Hayward Wagner as he comes to a stop just shy of the split in the pit wall. And again, Danny Steyn and Trevor Degioanni, your podium finishers.
Going to have a couple of fun interviews here because Trevor Degioanni, first runoff start after decades of racing. I think he started when he was 16, 17, now into his 40s and a staple of the club racing scene in the Atlanta area. But look at how happy everyone is for Greg Maloy here on pit lane.
Yeah, Joe Moser with mechanical problems very early in this one. But Greg Maloy getting a lot of congratulations. Hayward Wagner right down there too, congratulate him. He's going to get his helmet off so we can see his smiling face, and then we'll have a chance to talk to our winner and the circumstances around this late race victory. He sort of played the long game with the tire choice, and we thought that he might have something for Danny Steyn at the end, but I think Danny's problem was complicated by that shifting issue. There's the gold medal going around his neck. The podium finishers had a little drop of water. Thanks, CC, for taking care of that. And of course, the Hoosier necktie goes around our winner. Sounds like Hayward Wagner is ready to talk to our new grand champion.
Greg, I don't know if you saw the applause and coming down victory lane or pit lane here, but this is a very, very popular win for you, sir. How does this feel?
It's amazing. You know, I was sorry to see Joe have a problem there. He was probably going to be the one to beat here, you know, but man, this class is so tough. Two of the best drivers in the whole club are at the front of the field, and the rest of the field's really strong. And you know, you have so much self-doubt when you're building the car and you get here and can I do this? And man, to come out on top is incredible. Like, can't even describe it.
I've had a chance to interview a few times. I know you don't love to talk about yourself, but let's give it a shot. Tell everybody a little bit about, just real quick, about the effort just to get here this year.
I mean, it's hard to describe. You know, I'm up in Detroit. Like, my family is back in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, so I'm working on the car by myself. I just rent a house in Detroit, have a rented garage. The roof leaks. It sucks, but you know, you just keep grinding away, and you know, you make some strides, and finally you're within striking distance, and you just got to close. And today we did it.
Well, huge congratulations to you. Everybody here, Joe came over and congratulated you. Everybody's so happy to see you do it. You get to take one more lap, this one with the checkered flag in your hand. Enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
That's really the spirit of SCCA Club Racing, talking about a guy working on his own car in a leaky garage. You know, obviously there are some folks that are able to come to the runoffs with funding, but it's the grassroots support of drivers like that that make this club great.
Well, and it is truly kind of putting in the work for what you want out of, you know, ultimately it's not a very glamorous thing until you have a gold medal around your neck, and then it's all worth it.
A couple happy second and third place finishers with Hayward Wagner.
Danny, I know that was not the end of the race you were looking for. You drove a great race up to them, but you seem genuinely thrilled for these two gentlemen joining you on the podium.
Absolutely. As we've just seen the last 2 days, racing is an incredibly heartless and cruel mistress. I have no idea why I keep coming back. It just beats us into a pulp. But despite that, there's joy in it, and especially joy for guys like Greg and Trevor. And sorry to see Joe Moser step out. I don't know what happened to him, but yeah, look, let's face it. I'm one of the privileged people. I'm spending a weekend racing behind the wheel of a car with a grin across my face. Yeah, second's not what I wanted. I thought I had it in the bag, and then I lost the gearbox, and it's just so crushing. Just one of those things.
Well, congratulations on another podium. You may be the only guy that says I'm going to be happy no matter what and means it. So congratulations to you, sir.
Genuinely mean that. Thank you.
And Trevor, come on up. Yes, sir. Drove from fourth on the grid onto the podium. It's not a CRX. It's not an MX-5. How'd you do it?
Oh, man, it was we had some luck. We had some attrition. The car was really good. I've got the best team here. I've got Joel Ferenzi, which is the best crew chief in the paddock, and I've got OPM Autosport. Guys behind me like Chuck Reynolds and my family. We did good. We did good. I'm pretty proud of all these guys. We worked really hard on this car, and you know, we don't necessarily have some of the resources of some of these guys, but we pushed really hard, and we're here. We're here. They knew we were here.
Well, congratulations. You definitely have arrived, sir. Enjoy the bronze.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What a great podium. A first-time champion and a driver in his first runoffs comes home with a bronze medal. As Greg Maloy taking his victory lap, here come the highlights.
This was a
go ahead.
Little hint of what we could have had. There was the deep braking maneuver to get the lead, and then the power play up the inside for Joe Moser to take the lead momentarily as Denny Steyn sweeps back. This kind of awkward save that we had multiple cars avoid contact at the start.
Then we had a 3-car train after Joe Moser developed a problem right here and got passed by 2 cars and eventually would complete that lap in the pit lane. And then Amy Mills with a great battle with a little bit of a contretemps here. Hines having a great battle all race long with Olivier Jean Francois. Francois goes for a spin, was able to recover for a 6th place finish. And then this is where the pass was made. Denny Steyn, a sitting duck with a transmission that would not shift.
Yeah, confirmed he did lose that gearbox for a couple laps. It looks like it came back for the finish, and that's the distance at the line. Greg Maloy celebrating his entire 2 bonus laps, cool down and then victory.
Big thumbs up from Greg Maloy, but an exciting way to kick off our final day of racing here at the 59th edition of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. But stay with us, lots more racing yet to come. I'm John Vippen on behalf of Tom O'Gorman and Hayward Wagner. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you down the road.